Hello, welcome to The Writing Engineer. Today, I'd like to discuss something that's quite important if you're going to be putting your artistic work out into the public space. Namely, copyrights. So, the reason that I am going to be doing this video is that I saw an article which is going to be pertinent for anyone publishing in the United States. And that article has to do with protection of your work after it's been released into the public space. So in the United States, there have been typically two traditional things that have been talked about in terms of protecting your work as an artist. The first is common law copyright, and the second is a traditional copyright. Common law copyright typically entails that once you have created a work, that it is already copyrighted. You don't have to do anything else. 90% of the work is already done. There's also something in common law copyright called the poor man's copyright, which involves printing out a hard copy of your work and mailing it to yourself and keeping that sealed so that in case you have to prove to somebody that you have indeed created the work, there is a postmarked, unopened envelope that has your work in it, which you can use as proof that you created it at the time that it was postmarked. The second, more traditional route is to register your copyright with the United States Copyright Office. This is a little bit more involved process, as you have to register your work with the Copyright Office, send it to them, and pay them $55. Now, I know there's a lot of other things that you'd rather be spending your money on than $55 for a copyright. And you might think to yourself, well, no one's really going to want to steal my work anyway. And while that might be true, occasionally there are people who have created work that is of much interest to outside sources, say movie houses and traditional publishing houses, if you happen to be an independently published author. And the reason why I'm talking about this stuff is that the United States Supreme Court recently made a decision that has almost, let's say, gotten rid of common law copyright. The decision came down that in order for someone to enforce the copyright for the work that they have created, they must actually have the copyright registered and in hand. It is no longer enough that the copyright merely be submitted, as it were. I forget the exact wording, but excuse me. But if this is indeed the case, where you have to have a copyright in hand in order to enforce the copyright for your work, then that all but makes common law copyright a thing of the past. And while it might have been useful to prove to someone just by using the United States Postal Service as a quasi-copyright, and that most of us will not have to protect our work from thievery by other people, it is now probably one of the things that we're going to have to get used to if we're going to be publishing work that we want to make sure people know belongs exclusively to us. And now we have to register our copyrights. So I would think that if there is the slightest chance that your work might be considered popular, or if it is considered, or if your work might be similar to someone else's in any shape, manner, or form, that you might want to get your copyright registered. Now, I know that it takes some time to get your work through the United States Copyright Office. I cannot speak to any other countries, but I have done this in the past, and sometimes it can take 6 to 8 weeks, up to several months to get it through the copyright system. If this is something that you do want to do, and you do want to protect your work against possible copyright thieves or being copied by someone else and made into a similar but slightly different story, you might want to think about registering your work in the Copyright Office as soon as you can possibly do it. Well, I hope that you found this information useful today. In this news event that I found particularly relevant to authors today in the United States, please click the like button below. And don't forget to subscribe on your way out. If you'd like to receive notification of when my videos come up, click the little notification bell. Also, I have a really big announcement that I'm going to be showing with you next time. I'm sure some of you can probably guess what it is, but I'm going to leave it as a little bit of a mystery for anyone who hasn't watched all of my previous videos. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.